Hello, dear friends. How are you finding learning English? Isn't it easy? Yes, it has to be. We'll move on. Lesson after lesson, we are doing everything greatly. We'll move on to the seventh poem by our state poet, Kuvempu. Heaven, if you are not here on earth, is one that we'll have to understand today. The poet here, he had written this in Kannada itself, and this was a translated. Now, whatever is been prescribed to us, it is a translated work, translated by Dr. C. Nagana. Kuvempu, nothing much to mention about him because he's very well known. He's a most popular poet. But once we understand what the poet actually was, how his thought was, what his style of writing was, and what he concentrate more on, we'll definitely understand that this poet has so many views in his mind, so many thoughts and so many visions in his mind. Kuvempu was influenced, he was greatly, highly influenced by romantic poetry. Remember, dear friends, romantic poetry does not mean romance between individuals. It is the romance, it is the love, it is the appreciation of beauty between human beings and nature. Human life is completely dependent on nature, the changes in nature, the vibrant colors in nature, and sometimes in the nature, in the atmosphere, and when the climate is very down, gloomy, we also don't feel like working too much at all. So it is human life and activities are completely and directly dependent on nature. So here he loves, he liked this romantic poetry. Romantic poetry is understanding nature, loving nature, appreciating the beauty of nature, and it is like confessing that my life or our life is completely dependent on nature. So he was influenced by that, and therefore whenever we find Kuvempu, whenever we read poem of Kuvempu, we'll understand that he has lot of nature element in it, and he talks everything in connection with nature. This one also is connected to nature, and he would visualize and perceive heaven on earth. That is what the poet is trying to say here. He wants human beings to understand that there is no heaven other than the place where we are staying. We have heaven here. We have to make heaven here. There is no outer world or outer grandeur world that called as heaven. We don't have anything like that. It's just a myth. It's just a belief in us. So he just wants to try to understand, try to make the readers understand that myth has to be erased off, and heaven is where we are living. That is what he tries to say. So he visualizes and he perceives, he just takes in heaven on earth. Earth itself is heaven. And he just tries to give a message that human beings have to live in harmony with nature. Once you are in harmony with nature, harmony means happiness, coordination. Just you have to live in coordination with earth, and once you live like that, the earth, the place where you stay, either it is a village or a city or a small hut or a big bungalow, wherever it is, the earth, the place itself, it becomes heaven for us. So these 3 points you'll have to understand about Kuvempu, and then we'll directly start with the poem. It's a very small poem with around 12 lines. So the first one, it's very simple. Heaven, if you are not here on earth, where else can you be? It's impossible to search heaven other than on earth. Heaven has to be on earth. He continues to say, if we ourselves are not gods, then there are no gods at all. If we ourselves are not nymphs are the demigods. If we ourselves are not demigods, then there can be no demigods at all. We are the gods, we are the demigods, we are the apsaras, we are the nymphs. We are the gods. A person who wishes and fulfills all your wish, that person is God for us. For us, our parents are gods because they have struggled hard, they have worked hard, and they just give up their life for the sake of our benefit. So our parents are our gods. In different situations, we ourselves are gods to somebody else. So if we ourselves are not gods, then there are no gods at all. If we aren't demigods, if we aren't nymphs, the messenger of God, the angels of God, then there are no angels at all. This is spoken in the first stanza. The second stanza, he says, see, wherever we are, you see this. In nature, there is heaven. And on the earth, you can see, because, all these small, tiny details, he wants us to find out where heaven is. For example, the roaring stream and the rolling surf. The stream that jumps from a greater height, and just it rushes and gushes, and in its eagerness, it goes and meets the sea. When it unites with the sea, there is a froth that is formed. There is that kind of combination that is formed. So the roaring stream that just rolls down on the oceans and into the oceans, and the rolling surf. Surf is the edge, or just moving around and coming back. And the waves that touch the beach and touch the beach and then come off. That is surfing. The surf itself, you can see the heaven. The froth that is formed, the foam that is formed, when the water from an ocean or a sea just hits the beach, hits and comes back, there you get happiness. There you can find earth, because it is all created by God. It is all there in nature. And he says, the tender sunshine on the verdant gardens. Verdant means colorful, vibrant. These colorful gardens, they get the tender sunshine. The sun, he just gives his sunshine, the early morning shine, onto the vibrant gardens or the tender gardens and the colorful gardens, and there you can find heaven. There you can find happiness. He continues to say, and the tender sunshine that falls in the vibrant gardens, and the gentle sun, some of them, they say he is very harsh, he's very bright, and he's very rough and rude. He's not considerate at all. Because, let us just deviate slightly. In Romeo and Juliet, Juliet says, she compares sun to be very garish, very harsh, brightly burning. She doesn't like that sun at all, who is very rough and rude. But here, our poet, he says, no, the gentle sun, he makes, with all these, the roaring stream and the rolling surf, with all these things, all of them make heaven on earth. Earth is transformed. Earth is changed. Earth becomes brilliant, and heaven is formed here itself with the help of sun and the water and the tiny wind, the gentle wind that blows. All these things, they make the earth as heaven. In the third stanza, we have the poet talking about all these things. Not just nature, but there are other human activities also that give lot of encouragement and make earth as heaven. Splendor of harvest. Splendor means beauty. The beauty of harvest and the beauty of moonlight. These two, they make the heaven on earth. That beautiful harvest. Throughout the year, the farmer, the crop grower would have really struggled hard. And after a year, he just gets the harvest, bounty. In bounty, he gets it. He is very happy. For him, that moment, he feels that he's gone to heaven. That moment is the happiest moment for him. So the poet, he says, in the splendor of the harvest and the splendor of moonlight, after days of hard and tiring work, just sit back either on your chair, on your charpai or whatever it is, and just look at the moon, just stare at the cool moon and the tiny stars that shine and twinkle upon them. All these things, they give lot of soothing effect to the heart. They give lot of comfort to the heart. And therefore, the poet tries to say that in the splendor of harvest and splendor of moonlight, heaven lies all over. Everywhere you can see heaven. Just don't go beyond your imagination. We just, when we talk, we say, let him after death, let go to heaven. Who knows what heaven is? Nobody has come back and told us whether there really exists something called heaven. Nobody has come and told us how actually the nymphs are. Nobody has ever dared to come back. Even we don't want to listen to such people who come back from heaven. We can't understand what heaven is. The poet again and again insists, saying that in these small things we have to find heaven. The splendor of harvest, splendor of moonlight, heaven lies all over. The last two lines, in fact, you can say that the poet is trying to boast about himself. He says, imbibing and spilling the song of nectar. Imbibe means to take into your blood, take into your skin, take into your flesh, take into your heart and soul. So it just imbibing means to take in. Taking in and spilling out the song of nectar. Take all the beauty from the nature. Take all the best things. Because only a poet can understand the other meaning of the beautiful things on earth. So poet, he tries to take in all beautiful things and he spills out. He takes the beauty from nature and gives out the song of nectar. Doing all this, the poet, he creates heaven on earth, creating heaven on earth through his works, through the interpretation of beauty, through the way he tries to make people understand how beautiful heaven and earth are. So he tries to, in these two lines, he tries to say that the poet, he takes in and he spills out the song of nectar, taking in the beauty and giving out the song of nectar. The poet, he himself, he creates the earth. He creates the heaven on the earth. This is the summary of it. So finally, even in your questions and answers, these two lines are very important. And the question, again, a very common question is, who creates heaven on earth? It is the poet. The poet tries to create heaven on earth. How does he create? If it is asked, you will have to write down this. Imbibing and spilling the song of nectar, the poet creates the heaven on earth. So this is the explanation, the summary part of it. Moving on quickly to the questions and answers. A small poet cannot have more than 3 questions. Again, like we had in different poems, we'll have to just understand the summary of it. Again, the poem here, from your examination point of view, you have to just write down it in form of points and few words that are very important from the poem. And once you remember all these things, the most probable questions you can easily answer. Probable questions are these. How does the poet tell the readers that one must find heaven on earth? How to find heaven on earth? So you'll have to write down the second and the third paragraph. The second, the summary of it, roaring stream and the rolling surf, the sun, the tender sun on the verdant gardens, the gentle sun, all of them, they make earth as heaven. And then again, the splendor of harvest and the splendor of moonlight, heaven lies everywhere. The poet helps the people to understand how beautiful earth is and heaven on earth is. So that's the summary for it, that's the answer for it. Next, breaking the myth of heaven. How does the poet break the myth of heaven? Myth again is a belief that we have in our mind. So myth actually is nothing but a kind of thought that is put into our mind from a very young age. So this belief that we have that there is some third world called earth, called heaven, and we'll have to go there only if you are very good, and if you have done only good deeds here, you'll go to heaven and you'll happily be served with all those pious drink and the holy drink and all those things. That's a myth in us. So the question would be, how does the poet try to break the myth of heaven? That myth of heaven is completely broken, and the poet again, he says, don't go and search for a third world and just have to find out all happy and good things here. Think about such beautiful things like this rolling stream and the rolling surf, a tender sunshine and the harvesting. All this will give us the imagination, the picture of heaven on earth itself. Then the final question would be, how does the poet celebrate the power of the poet? How does the poem It shows, how does it show the power of the poet? The last two lines are a clue for this. Imbibing and spilling the song of nectar, the poet creates heaven on earth. This is the clue word. So you'll have to take this and then develop your answer based on this. The poet himself, he just takes everything in, and then he spills out the song of nectar, and then he wants to create heaven on earth. That is his main intention. He wants to try to make people understand that heaven lies within us and around us. So other than these three questions, I think students, you will not be getting any other questions at all. So this could be probably for 4 marks only. So let me mention it here. All possibilities, you will have these things for 4 marks only, not more than that. Because for a 6-mark question, you will have bigger answers like Vandana Shiva's summary you will have to write. You have other questions. So this one could be a 4-mark question. I hope the poem is completely understood. There are not many questions to be understood at all. There are 3 questions and 3 small stanzas that you'll have to understand from this poem. I hope it is clearly understood to you. See you in the next class.